Hi guys, so the 27th of July has passed. Now moving on to look at actually the 31st of July, the 3rd of August and the 4th of August. All in very quick succession. The 31st of July comes up in 2 days time. It's the 29th of July at 8:39 in the morning over here in the UK at the moment. Then obviously following that we've got the 3rd of August, which comes up on Tuesday. Sorry, wrong one. 3rd of August, which comes up on Friday. And then the 4th of August, which comes up on Saturday. The 4th of August being Obama's birthday. I'm going to quickly break down a couple of things that may connect to those couple of dates. The 4 icicles here I don't think just represent the 4 potential nuclear missiles or the 4 potential launches, as well as the 4 pins on the map in the background here of the classroom. I think it also has a connection with the 4th of August. I think that's also a connection with the letter D, which is the 4th letter of the alphabet, on this dunce cap, which could also be a representation of a party hat. Obviously, later on in the scene, we see Obama. Obama's birthday is the 4th of August. He is connected to Hawaii, where the volcano Kilauea is currently erupting. Hawaii received statehood on the 21st of August, which we see inside the apple. But I'm going to get onto that a little bit later. Some of you may hear some repetitive information. Please bear with me. I am trying just to cover this for one kind of final time. So one thing I wanted to quickly point out that I may not have pointed out before is the alphabet over here. We obviously got the letter Z or Z and the letter O tilted slightly. That tells us that they're emphasizing that out of all the letters on this board, they're the 2 important ones. Now, I thought about this because when we look at the teacher's hair, we can clearly see the number 2, the number 2, and the number 3, but they're upside down. So what I did is I flipped my computer screen upside down. And when I did that, the letter Z became the first letter of the alphabet, and the letter O became the 12th letter of the alphabet. I added those two together, and I got the number 13. And I thought, 13, we've passed the 13th of July, so possibly if I flip the 13 around, that becomes 31. So thinking about that, can't seem to get rid of this red dot. Let me try again, 1 second. Okay, so just thinking about that for a second, I got the 31st from this chart here, and then with the teacher's hair, with the 2, 2, and 3, I got 7. So 31st of July. I'm going to get to what I think is going to happen on the 31st of July in a few moments. Then I started looking at the hearts, and when the screen was upside down, to me, they looked like the letter A, obviously without the middle, and the number 3. And to me, that obviously has connections to August the 3rd, and that was written there. They got it there 3 times, 3 hearts. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to mean, but obviously when you flip it upside down, the only thing you haven't got is the line across the middle, which may have been a bit too obvious if there was a draw on the heart there, but you have got the representation of possibly letter A with the triangle type shape and the number 3. So that was just kind of that side of the chalkboard when I flipped it upside down. Then obviously I've already talked about the other potential references to August the 3rd. While we got George Bush on this particular frame, he's holding up the 3 digits over here and the 4 digits over here. I do think that corresponds to August the 3rd and August the 4th. The reason being is because at this particular moment, he's holding his hands up in front of the burning house, the missile, and the representation of August the 3rd. I'm going to get a better image so we can see there. So if you can see just here, the lines don't connect at the bottom here, and the line goes over here. So you can tell this bottom line wasn't drawn as a complete structure as part of the house, which kind of leaves you, if you take away that bottom line, with the letter A. On the side here, just behind George Bush's ear, you've got the number 3, and again, that could be a connection to August the 3rd. On the other side, you could have another number 3, or it could be the letter M. Obviously, letter M could have references to various different things, but in connection with a house or some sort of living structure that is well known, Mar-a-Lago comes to mind. And obviously, if we're looking at a video that has potential connections to a second 9/11, various different presidents represented in it, including Donald Trump. Then obviously Donald Trump has his golf resort in Florida, or has his golf resort Mar-a-Lago in Florida. In one of the frames that we have with George Bush, we actually get a direct reference to Florida and to submarines and to a burning house. Now, I don't know if that means submarines are going to launch a missile at Florida, but that seems to be the connection that we're getting here. So you've got August the 3rd possibly interpreted in the hearts. You've got July 31st possibly interpreted from the teacher's hair and from the alphabet. If you flip it upside down and take the letter Z as the first letter and the letter O as the 12th letter, add them together and flip them around. Obviously, that's quite a lot of work, so I'm not sure if that's what is required, but it is something that is fitting with my line of thinking at the moment, considering the 27th of July has passed, and I still feel very strongly about the 3rd of August. But in order for things to kick off on the 3rd of August, there needs to be some kind of indications to that happening. So that's why I'm thinking, okay, 27th of July passed, that was wrong, even though there were quite a few interpretations, but it's all connected to the blood moon, and it could be that the blood moon was just a signal as to the week when this is all going to begin. The 27th marks the week of the 3rd and the 4th of August, and it could have been, you know, one of them kind of signs. Obviously, they didn't make that sign. That's celestial and, you know, related to our Heavenly Father, but obviously they manipulate biblical scriptures and celestial events for their own purposes as well. So, you know, that's kind of the reason I'm making this video, to interpret what they may have planned to try and manipulate the masses into thinking that certain things are happening when they're actually not. Then again, you have to think the Bible could be a prophecy that was meant to be fulfilled by a man, if you understand what I'm saying. It's kind of like a paradox in that way. But so I've covered the 3 hearts, I've covered the letters on the wall, I've covered the teacher's hair, I've covered the burning house, the rocket, the missile, whatever it is supposed to represent, maybe all 3 of those things, and how that could interpret as August the 3rd. The shark, obviously a reference to submarine, but I still think that the body is made up out of 7s, which, you know, I really think connects to July because it's the 7th month, and, you know, we may have the representation of the actual letter J down here, so I still think there's something connected with submarines in July, the 7th month, so still keep an eye out. Obviously 31st is the last July day that I can possibly watch before it moves into August, so just putting that representation down, and we'll keep an eye out, see if anything happens. And finally, just the rocket missile penis that we got up here on the top of the chalkboard, which I've already kind of pointed out. Sorry, I'm going to do this. I don't think I can. Stupid things in the way. Can I move it? No, but I'll just do it this way. But you can see how I've interpreted it before as the F, the A, and the 3, which could correspond to Friday, August the 3rd. So that's pretty much everything on the chalkboard. The hangman itself has a letter F inside of it, which could connect to Friday or Florida or any, you know, number of different things starting with F. But for me personally, I think because earlier in the scene we have George Bush hold up his fingers with the number 4 in front of it, and that could reference the 4th of August. I think that just may be a symbolization of the status of August the 4th, like devastation, death is kind of what's happening. Obviously, that's also the day of a potential 4 instances, whether that's nuclear launches or I don't know what, but instances of 4 something happening on the 4th of August. Obviously, that could obviously relate to death as well. So that's just the chalkboard scene, pretty much covered with everything that I could think of in terms of August the 3rd, August the 4th, and July 31st. If we move on to this scene here, I still think the apple has connections to the blood moon, but as I said, I think that could just be a signal for the week when all this is going down. Again, we've got the representation possibly of the letter F here in the background with the vine stem and leaves, and then in this particular circle of the vine stems we've got 3 leaves, which could reference August the 3rd. 2 of those leaves are sort of look like they're attached to this boy's head, which kind of gives him rabbit ears, with the rabbit looking directly at this figure, which just so happens to be the 8th figure in the line. So I'm just interpreting that as, like rabbits do go underground August the 2nd, because August the 3rd there's going to be some problems potentially. But again, a lot of interpretations haven't worked out, so I can't really say that that's solid. I can only say that's what I'm seeing from this video. And as I said, August the 3rd, August the 4th passes, and none of any of it has happened. I'll be thankful, but I won't be wasting any more time on it, to be just quite frank with you. Just to one more time kind of break down the apple here, we've got the number 8 right here in the middle with the vine stem and the shadow of the sorry, not vine stem, vine roots, and the shadow of the vine roots coming off of that as well. You can see when it develops a little bit more, it's a bit clearer. But you've also got an F coming off of here, and you've got 1, 2, and 3 seeds. So again, you could have Friday, August the 8th, 3rd with the 3 seeds. If you keep that in mind as a potential date for this to happen, then they've kind of been duplicitous in their meaning with that, because then they've got 2 seeds on one side and 1 seed on the other, which gives you a reference to 21, and the 8 in the middle still stands. 21/8 is the date that Hawaii received statehood, which is where Obama is from. At the moment in Hawaii, everyone knows we've got the volcanic eruption of Kilauea happening there. Started on May the 3rd and hasn't stopped since then. We've had various different types of events come out of that, including, I think it was 23 people injured on a tour boat that, in my opinion, was far too close to an erupting volcano. Not saying that they deserved it, but should have, been a lot more cautious. Blame the tour guide or the operator for that, considering they're controlling the boat. But putting that aside, you've got what looks like a volcano on the side here, with the lava coming out and the eruption coming up. Then the apple splits. So kind of interpreting that as something happens to the volcano. Inside, as I pointed out already, we've got the 21/8, which connects us to Hawaii as well. And then on the floor here, we've got this tsunami, which could be connected to the volcano, if what the video is saying with the apples is that the volcano splits, or a piece of it splits, and generates a tsunami. Obviously, that wouldn't be a tsunami just by itself. That would have to be accompanied with an earthquake of some kind, if it's such a large amount of material going into the... So there we see August the 3rd, August the 4th. As we come outside the classroom, I've already interpreted this scene in a video a while back, but for those who haven't seen, one of the things you can clearly see is Psalm 23, but when you flip the image upside down, you've got an A and a 3, or what could be interpreted as August the 3rd. and then you've got this whole jagged thing going on here, which for me I think has two meanings. One, with the lightning, obviously that has connections to electricity, and later on in the scene, as it's evolving, we see the electricity go out in the tower over here. So I think there's a clear reference to electricity going out, whether that's a cyber attack or an EMP, not exactly sure. But I also think those jagged lines represent an earthquake, and I think that earthquake is going to be connected to the Kilauea volcano. As I said, if that does erupt and split, then it will definitely be connected with an earthquake and a tsunami of some kind. So just, obviously I pointed out a lot of these things before, a lot of it's repetitive, so sorry for those of you who watch all my videos and are thinking, oh, I know all this already. Obviously, one of the new things was the letters on the board that I pointed out in reference to July 31st, and I think this is where it connects to the Osama bin Laden Iran ship scene that we've got here. Before, when I looked at the scene in an earlier video, some of you who watch the videos know that I interpreted this as January the 31st, because it looks like in the light here we have a J, and as we go forward it looks like there's a 31 in the clouds here, and on January 31st 2018 we had the blood moon, we had the blood moon, so it was a possible connection. Nothing happened, so now I'm thinking we've had the last blood moon of the year in the Wushu year of the dog, and I think it may be a signal as to the week that these things are going to happen. And I'm obviously now thinking that it could be a possible reference to July 31st. It may be reaching, but this could be a J that they've put here in this funnier shaped cloud, and then it could be another representation of a 3 here, 331, J331, that's J7, and then you take the 31 by itself, 31st. Obviously that's just an interpretation. With clouds, it's pretty easy to see different images in there, but I think you guys will agree, over here particularly, it looks different to the rest of the clouds here. You can't really make out too much images with these. They're smooth. These ones have got more jagged lines, more definition, so I think there's something more to be seen here. It's possible that it says J331, which could be July 7 and 31, which is July 31st. We'll see. That would be after the blood moon, just 4 days after the blood moon, so we'll see if anything happens. Again, there's potential because the rhetoric between Iran and America has escalated over the last couple of days, with Iran threatening to block the Straits of Hormuz, and obviously we see Iran raising up, oh sorry, not Iran, but Osama bin Laden, who I think represents Iran, raising up his hands. That could be a representation of missiles or a tsunami wave or a number of things, but considering he's on a ship, I'm thinking it's a tsunami wave that this is raising up. And if you guys remember the propaganda video from Iran that I reported back a couple of weeks ago, they had the image of, Iranians running out, jumping into the ocean, planting their flag, and a tsunami rising up and wiping out the ships that were coming towards them, which would obviously suggest that enemies were coming towards Iran to attack Iran, a theory that we've had for a number of months now. So if Iran does come out and block the Straits of Hormuz, obviously if that was to happen on the 31st of July, I would expect to be hearing something that would cause that on the 30th of July, so tomorrow, Monday, we might hear something from Donald Trump, possibly saying they're going to do something about Iran. Obviously, there was a report I brought out, I think it was just a couple of days ago, that talks about America being ready to attack Iran as early as next month, which would be August. They don't actually say they're definitely going to, but the idea has been floated out there. And even though the 3rd of August is quite early in the month. It is next month, so something to watch out for. If that does happen in terms of Iran blocking the Straits of Hormuz, the oil would slow down, the prices would go up, the market would collapse. And I think that's one of the references we're getting here with the oil dripping into the water there. At the same time as we've got Osama bin Laden raising up his hands, possibly indicating a tsunami of some sort, we've got a tsunami wave here moving towards what could be New York with the Statue of Liberty representation. And again, don't know if that's July 31st, but over here, sorry, I can't seem to get rid of this bar. Oh, I can, there we go. No, came straight back. Okay. Anyway, just up here, we may have a representation of the number 2, the number 2 again, and the number 3 just behind it. I do apologize, I can't seem to I brought this up because I wanted to draw on the screen at the same time, but now it's hindering my view. But you guys can go and check the video out if you want to, or take my word for it. 2, 2, 3, possibly a reference to number 7, July, I don't know, but we could be looking at July 31st or some form of something to happen, particularly in relation to Iran and the Straits of Hormuz and the oil. Obviously then we move on to August the 3rd, and I think this just kind of flows in a linear fashion, because when we get to this boy's eyes, we've already had the interpretation for Iran blocking the Straits of Hormuz, which could potentially cause the markets to plunge. And the reason they could go and block the Straits of Hormuz maybe has something to do with their uranium program, which could be something that Donald Trump talks about tomorrow. We'll see. We then get the markets plunging because the oil is blocked. We then get war coverage, maybe because of that action. And if they do that on the 31st of July, then 3 days later, on the 3rd of August, which could be represented by these planes here, 3 planes in the shape of an A, there could be an attack on Iran for them blocking the Straits of Hormuz and, I don't know, maybe doing something with their nuclear program, enriching uranium possibly. From that, we're interpreting from this that we're getting a retaliation. As we said, we're not sure if that's nuclear or not, but another thing I'm seeing here, if you look at the image as a more close-up, I'm seeing, this has already been pointed out by JK, this particular part, which is the submarine. You can see the submarine top here. The jagged edges that you can see here are the image of the submarine top coming up out of the waves or out of the water. So that would be the water rising up here, and this would be the top of the submarine. I think you guys should be able to see that quite clearly. Over here we have the representation of another ship, which I don't think has been pointed out yet. These jagged lines that go up here, they remind me distinctly of a ship. And this point here, down here, but it's leaning towards the side, leaning towards the right hand side there. And I think this part here is not just showing us the Middle East and the possible someone getting shot, possibly Donald Trump, as he is represented quite a few times in this video with a head wound of some kind. That doesn't mean he's the Antichrist, but there does seem to be a head wound of some kind. But in the background as well, if you can see, well, obviously you can see, we've got all this smoke that's rising up and it's spreading out across the sky, going this way. I believe this is the depiction of the volcanic eruption on August the 3rd, Kilauea on the west coast. The connection with that, the planes, the 3 planes, the possible reference to August the 3rd, they fly directly towards all this smoke, which I think is the eruption. Down here, if you can see, you have to kind of look really closely. I'm not sure if you guys have high detail screens, but I'm going to try my best to point it out. If you can see the way the smoke comes up, it curves up and outwards. That gives it the appearance of like a a mushroom cloud type explosion, but I don't think it's a nuclear detonation, although I think that Kilauea could possibly be detonated by a nuclear device. I think it is the actual explosion of the volcano itself. Down here you've got a slightly different coloured smoke, which is more dirt coloured, which gives you the suggestion of earth, like rubble basically, and it's all kind of billowing and smoking. So basically I think that's the volcanic eruption, all the smoke coming out, going across the sky this way, all the debris, or to use the correct term, the pyroclastic flow coming out from the volcano, and that disturbing the water, which is causing the submarines to break the surface. We know they've got the rimpat exercise going on over there at the moment, up until August the 2nd. Obviously Hawaii is further back in terms of time zone, so while they're still on August the 2nd, a lot of the world will have moved on to August the 3rd. And obviously that would affect the ships as well. So this ship seems like it's capsizing, tilting this way. I hope you guys can see what I'm seeing there, but that seems to be the depiction for August the 3rd, Middle East and Kilauea at the same time. I don't know, that could have connections to Iran at the same time, but we see the birds flying up, and they could be connected to a missile reference, as we do have earlier in the scene. So I don't have any thumbnails here, so I might not be able to find it quickly. Yeah, we do have earlier in the scene the bird wings on the back of Osama bin Laden and the pointed soldiers in the background, which could have reference to missiles. So it seems like it's all connected in that way. So I think I'm just going to end the video here because it's getting quite long. But considering July 27th has passed, I'm just going to put the final warning on July 31st for potential escalation in the Middle East in terms of Iran blocking the Straits of Hormuz. That's not impossible. It's not a far-reaching interpretation, because we've seen the relationship between the United States and Iran, and we have heard direct references to Iran blocking the Straits of Hormuz coming from the Iranian leaders, and we have heard references to America attacking Iran through people like John Bolton. So it's definitely not out of the realms of possibility, considering everything else that's going on around Donald Trump at the moment as well, with all this Michael Cohen saying that he knew about the about the Don Jr. Trump Tower meeting and how that could link to collusion and all of that mess. It could be time for something like this to happen. You guys have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and may the Heavenly Father bless you.